Budgeting is obviously going to be a hot topic. What are we going to do about our budget, and how are we going to make it work with all of this inflation? I know everybody's thinking about inflation right now. I'm thinking about inflation. Now, how that plays into today's episode is what I'm going to talk about next. Budgeting is obviously going to be a hot topic. What are we going to do about our budget, and how are we going to make it work with all of this inflation? I know everybody's thinking about inflation right now. I'm thinking about inflation. I'm calling it something a little different because I don't think this is really the definition or the scenario of economic inflation that we've seen in the past. This feels and is behaving like something very different. I've heard terms like reflation, which suggests that we're just catching up. I don't think that's quite it, but I think it probably reflects a little bit more of accurately what's going on. But we'll see as time will tell. Where this is really going. I think we're in more of a stall pattern. Quite frankly, I think if you look at our economic situation that we're in right now, in all of the different sectors and markets, and you fast forward 24 months, I think we're likely to be where we are today 24 months from now. And so I'm calling this more of a stall pattern, and everything that happens between now and then is going to be in an effort to try and recover or adapt and probably overcorrect to a lot of the ever-changing dynamics of the economic landscape that we're in right now. And so what you're going to see is lots of big moves and some smaller moves in an effort to try to balance things out. And 2 years from now, we're going to be right back here, but with 2 years of history of all of the things that we probably did wrong. Right? As a country, as individuals, people are going to overreact. They're going to invest in things like cryptocurrency because they don't trust the dollar right now. And so you're just going to see lots of big moves across all the markets in an effort to react, and I think overreact, to this ever-changing landscape. All of that to say, if you don't have to make any big moves right now, if you don't have to buy a house or build a house, if you don't have to do a renovation project or replace a vehicle, if you don't have to pay toward college tuition, if you can just save toward college tuition, save toward all of these future long-term goals and some of these big moves, you are going to be in a much better place 2 years from now and beyond. So that's my take on where we are right now. Now, how that plays into today's episode is what I'm going to talk about next. Before we dive in, I'd just like to take a moment to mention Buzzsprout. Today is a great day to start your podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters like me already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. You can start for free and get a $20 Amazon gift card if you use the link in the show notes to start your account today. Let's create something great together. Buzzsprout. Let's get your podcast launched. So far in this season, I've collected a few words of some different topics that we've discussed. And in my list, I've got words like budget, emergency fund, zero debt. More of a phrase there than a word, but you get the idea. Focus, distractions, sacrifice, learn, adjust, explore, commit, together, intensity, conviction, short-term, long-term. And then a few words that I didn't write down that just came to me as I was reading through their list are the words motivation or motivate, and also inspire. And I'm sure there's some other words that I could come up with if I sat down and penciled out a few more from previous episodes. But these are the words that I think kind of wrap up where we've been so far on this journey in this first quarter of 2022. We're coming out of 2 years of lots of uncertainty, and I think we're going into 2 years of a lot more uncertainty. I think the approach is a little different. I think we're going in with certainty about what could happen. And I think adjustments, like I just mentioned, are going to be a result of thinking that we have some certainty, some idea of what's to come. I think all of that is going to result in basically a net zero move over the next 24, maybe 30 to 36 months. So again, I really want to stress that if you don't have to make any big moves right now, then this is certainly the time to be saving and investing. We're going to see the market do an adjustment sometime, over this next 24, 30, 36 months. And really short term, we're going to see market opportunities where we've all heard the phrase, the market is on sale, right? We want to be buying when the market is on sale. What does that mean? That means you want to be investing. And so the less we have to put out in the terms of cash flow toward housing and renovations and purchases, the more we have available to invest. Now, how you invest it is up to you. We obviously have a plan. I have a strategy that I communicate to all of my clients as far as how we want to invest that money. It's very strategic. It's very intentional. It's very consistent. It's somewhat dynamic, and between 4 to 5 different sectors, we put all of our money evenly spread across those 4 to 5 areas, and we just keep doing that. I'm not advertising any specific products. I'm not promoting or affiliating myself with any specific financial planners. So, you're on your own and within your comfort level to go out and find a financial advisor that you feel comfortable working with. Or if you want to do it yourself, by all means, research the market, get educated, go in with knowledge and information, be informed, and make your investments, place your trades, and keep investing. Keep that money working for you. But the idea here is that the more of our available cash, more of our income that we can put into some of these different actionable investments or actionable areas, then we've now taken what could just be a static or a stale savings fund that's not really doing anything for us, and we don't feel like we're getting much out of it. And I know what that feels like. I'm taking a little detour here, so bear with me. But when you first start down this path of getting out of debt, setting up the emergency fund, you make so many compromises. That's not the right word. You don't make compromises. You make sacrifices. And you start to feel like maybe this isn't worth it. All I'm doing is sacrificing. I keep thinking about all the things that I want, and I know that I have to put them on hold, maybe indefinitely if I want to make this work. If I can't get enough income coming in to knock out this debt that I've accrued, and then, everybody's got a different level, right? We had, my wife and I, I'll put this out there, vulnerable moment. We had about $75,000 worth of non-mortgage debt when we decided to pull the trigger. Now, prior to that, we actually had a lot more, and we had been consistently paying it down, but not as aggressively as we could have. Because when we finally committed to pulling the trigger on getting out of debt, I'll tell you, we did it fast. We were blessed with some resources that we had been investing and putting aside and putting in savings. And, we had been sacrificing for years, putting things off, and we had purchased some things, and we had tried, in the past, and, anybody that's listened to even just one of my episodes knows that I am very much in favor of and support and teach the Ramsey baby steps. So we are a non-credit card family. But it wasn't all that long ago that we were a many credit card family. And so I've been there. And we've made the mistakes, and we were trying very hard. We thought we were being very frugal. We thought we were being very intentional, leveraging all the perks and the benefits of the credit card. And while you can spend your time doing that, I can say from personal experience that we found that we were being motivated by the wrong things. And so it encouraged us in some cases to buy something sooner than we would have, or buy something extra that we might not have because of that perk or that cash benefit. Now, whether we did that with the credit that was extended to us that we knew that we could cover at the end of the month, we could pay that balance off and never carry a balance, or we did it with the perk of the cash reward and we used some of that cash reward money to purchase that item or spend that extra or spend early, regardless of how we did it, we still made that decision to spend early or spend extra. And so these are two behaviors that tend to get us in trouble over time, right? As we continue to make that decision, as we continue to exercise that behavior, we're on this financial fitness journey, and it's your cheat day, right? So now you're in the middle of this diet plan or this fitness routine, and we've baked in a cheat day so that you can keep your momentum going, but still feel like you're getting a reward for your effort. But what happens when you take an extra cheat day, or you take an early cheat day, and then you still use the cheat day that's scheduled in the plan, right? You start undermining the program. And we all know what happens, right? As we start to undermine that program, we may not see a negative effect right away. So we keep undermining the program. And before you know it, we've slid right back into bad behaviors, and we find ourselves in this scenario for financial fitness, we find ourselves overspending, extending credit levels, requesting more credit, signing up for consumer cards, taking advantage of low interest loans, whatever the scenario is, right? Cars are a great example. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who just say, I'm going to have not a credit card. I'm going to have a car loan and a car payment forever. So it's just part of my budget. $1,000 in car payments. I'm just going to put that number in there until that number no longer makes sense, and then I'm going to adjust it. I'm not going to ever make an intentional effort to remove it. And I think that's the difference. That's really the nature of why I started this podcast to begin with, is to really address and highlight and identify those negative behaviors, right? That don't even feel negative. I'm budgeting, right? I'm putting my car payment in the budget. I'm going to make sure that I can make that car payment and keep my family in a new, reliable, safe vehicle all the time. So I've accepted that I have this car payment, and I'm going to commit to paying that car payment toward whatever vehicle I have at the time, or vehicles, rather than set money aside and go buy a car with cash using the same philosophy, right? But eliminating the debt. So it's just these subtle little adjustments, right? I could put money into a car payment and be paying down on a car that's losing value faster than I'm paying it off, and never be able to get on the other side of that scenario because I'm just choosing not to. Or I could choose to, for a season, for a short amount of time, get into a vehicle that I can pay cash for and have zero debt on, or eliminate the debt on a vehicle quickly and start putting that same car payment into a savings account, a sinking fund, or a fund, any kind of fund, call it what you want, toward a new car. And once I have enough for that new vehicle, I'll purchase the new vehicle. But I'm telling you right now that this is not the time to go out and purchase a new vehicle. This is the time to save and invest toward that new vehicle. And the reason I say invest toward it, if you open up a brokerage account, it's essentially a high-yielding savings fund or savings account. And so now you've got the opportunity during this season of uncertainty, continued uncertainty, recovering from the COVID, the worldwide pandemic landscape that we're coming out of. We're evolving into what is what has been called the new normal and has been now for at least a decade. There's been different versions of the new normal being discussed and being defined and described. That's never going to go away. So the new normal really is not normal. The new normal is change. If we really want to boil down what the new normal is, it is ever changing landscape, economic landscape, real estate landscape, investment landscape, worldwide trade landscape. All of that is changing. And it's never going to stop changing. It was already changing. We just weren't talking about it because it was fairly consistent and we had some control. Well, now we have no control, and everything is in just this fluid. I mean, look at the supply chain. Do a Google search on supply chain. Millions and millions and millions of results are going to come back, and you can read the top 4 and get a pretty good picture of what's going on in the world right now. So if you don't need something in those big categories, you need to be investing. Use that money to your benefit. Instead of spending it, put it in a place where it can grow. And then see, again, how creative you can get. In a couple of the episodes this season, I talked about getting creative on budgeting. We talked about some specific examples. Groceries is a good one. We've tried 4 or 5 different grocery solutions in our household. We've tried to meal plan and just go to the grocery store, right? This is how it's been done for years. Nothing new here. Everybody's gone to the grocery store, and we tried meal prepping. We tried couponing. We tried to get our arms around that, but it just wasn't something that worked well for us. Neither one of us are big cookers. We both enjoy food. We enjoy eating. We even enjoy cooking to an extent, but neither one of us are going to spend the entire day cooking or prepping or spend the whole weekend, making lots of meals that we can just pull out of the fridge and then cook easily. Because again, you do that in an effort to try to make the rest of the week easier, but you end up spending 30 hours over the weekend trying to get all this preparation done. And so neither one of us we're just not wired for that. We want to be outside when the weather's nice. We want to be spending time with our son. We want to be spending time in our community. And so cooking it was a hard thing for us to fit in. And so it's always been this challenge for us to be able to find a routine and a program that works well to be able to manage the grocery list creation and having the right foods in the house, the right ingredients in the house to be able to cook on a given day beyond like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So, like I said, we like food, we like eating, but it's so much easier to just go to a restaurant and have them prepare the meal. But you're going to pay 10 times what that food actually costs. And so getting creative, right? How can you enjoy the process, enjoy the work that's involved at an appropriate level that works well for your situation? For us, that meant looking at other options. Now, we had to pay a little bit more for some of these, but the online grocers, so HelloFresh, Blue Apron, Blue Ribbon, Hungry Roots, these are all different solutions, different vendors that are out there. They're approaching it from a little bit different angle. And so we started trying to look for local first, and then we looked at, more healthy options. And then we were looking at the ones that did most of the prep for you so that you didn't have to do as much work once the food got to you. And we've tried them all, and they work, and they're at different price points, and we tried to find price points that worked well for us, and that was good for the two of us, my wife and I. But our son is a little particular about what he's eating right now. He's only 6, and so some of these food opportunities, some of these food solutions just didn't really set well with him. He wasn't enjoying it as much as we were, and so we still had to go to the grocery store for him, which is no big deal. We know what he likes, and it's easy enough to get him covered, but we really had to pay attention to the budget, to the grocery line budget, and make sure that food was being captured in an appropriate way. And so we've been on both sides of that. We've spent too much and we've underspent. And so the pendulum for us it continues to swing. We're getting ready to change to a new solution here in the next week and try something else and see if we can make a reasonable adjustment. But I find that we're now more in the stage of kind of fine tuning this solution for us in this grocery category. Now we have vehicles that that are relatively new. We have a 2011 and a 2016 vehicle. One of them has 200,000 miles. The other one has 50,000 miles. I do a lot of the maintenance myself, and then I go to the garages, the local garages, for any maintenance that I can't do or just don't want to do. And that's how we keep those vehicles in good running condition, safe, reliable on the road, and they're paid for. And so, we actually almost fell into the trap recently of purchasing a new vehicle. And it didn't take long to talk us out of that. We were looking at some of the prices for that same vehicle, but in a newer version, potentially even a new version. And you guys may know the name Anthony O'Neill. He was a Ramsey personality. He's now got his own business and his own show, his own brand. And I like what he does a lot. I listened to one of his shows recently. So he's a car guy. I'm a car guy. And so this one had to do, a part of the show had to do with purchasing for him what was a dream car and how he purchased that car. And then he started breaking down, the current automotive economy and the economics around purchasing a car these days. And for years, I've been saying, Anthony's been saying, Dave Ramsey has been saying, don't ever buy a new car. Just don't do it. And until you become a millionaire and money is no longer relevant, don't buy a new car. And the rationale is very reasonable, right? We never want to lease. We always want to pay cash, and we want to buy good value. And so if you're buying a new car, you're giving up 20% of the value as soon as you sign for it, because it's going to lose that much value in the first year. And so you're never going to get your money back out of this purchase. And so it's a buyer beware scenario. Now, if you want to go buy a new car, just make sure you have the funds to do it. And I'm not mad at you, right? But listen to this. So Anthony does some research, and he finds out that in today's market, used cars are retaining their values so well because of the supply chain issues that the MSRP, the price that you paid for a car 3 years ago new, is less than the price you would pay for that same car today used. So think about that for a second. If you had bought a car 3 years ago and paid retail price at the dealership, which is something I would have told you not to do, today, 3 years later, that car would be worth more than you paid for it. So flip side, what that means for those of us who need a car today is that if I go buy used, I'm going to pay more than I would have paid for that same car new 3 years ago, except now I'm going to buy it with 50,000 miles on it or more, right? I'm going to buy it used, and I'm going to pay more for it if I'm shopping used. So his point was, do your research. Go shop some new markdowns or lightly used markdowns. Find available inventory, because that's where you're going to find the deals, and always pay cash. And he gives lots of great examples about using cash to your advantage. And there's lots of reasons why cash, and he says over and over and over, and I love this, he's not the only one to say it, obviously, we've all heard it before, cash is king. And he's right, cash is king. You walk in with cash and say, this is what I'm paying. Well, if you lay your cash on the table and that's all the cash that's available, doesn't matter what you're buying, whoever you're buying it from knows that they can either have that cash or they can keep what they're selling you. And those are the only two options. So they either make the sale and take the money that they want, right, and give you the product that you want. In our scenario now, it's a car. So we're going to trade. I'm going to give you my car. You're going to give me the cash, or vice versa, or nothing happens. Those are your options. Now, in a typical car dealer scenario, and I realize that car purchases have moved online too, and so you have to use some sort of an electronic transaction, but still use cash, right? Use your debit card. Use a prepaid card. Set it up so that you know what you're going to pay. You only pay that, and you don't sign up for any kind of credit. But we are in a rare time, and probably a limited time, when buying new may actually be an option, and a better option, because you might pay $1,000 or $2,000 or maybe $5,000 more, but you could get a brand new car versus a used car at an inflated, right? I'm going to use the term inflated because we're talking about inflation, an inflated price. So do your research. That's the point. Just do your homework. Go in to every situation educated. Be informed. So I've gone on about that probably too long. So this episode is called Call to Action. So what is the action that I'm talking about? So you've heard me say, do nothing. Well, that is really ultimately breaking it down, the essence of what this episode is. The action that I'm asking you to take is to do nothing. But the underlying action that you're going to take in an effort to do nothing, don't buy the car, don't buy the house, don't do those things that you don't need to do, and be very clear and honest with yourself about whether you need to do something or you just want to, or it's convenient, right? Maybe you've been saving, you've been preparing, you know what you want to buy, but maybe you don't need to buy it right now. Even if you're prepared to buy it, maybe you don't need to. You could wait for a better opportunity. And those opportunities, they come and go, and so you just need to be prepared, right? If you can put money in place, if you can get financially ready to pull the trigger, that puts you in a power position when the opportunity comes. And right now, as I said, the market is going into the opportunity side, where buyers are going to have an opportunity to buy the market on sale. And what that means is you're going to be buying low. And anybody who's done any investing or talked to a broker or, been interested in it, maybe done a little research or even done some investing yourself, you know that the name of the game is to buy low and sell high. Right now, we're going into a time period, and who knows how long it's going to be, but it's a time period of being able to buy low. The market is going to be going on sale for an amount of time. And so we want to be putting our funds where they can be of the most value. So that's the action. Do nothing. But what that means is don't purchase. Do invest. Do save. Even if all you're doing is taking what would be a payment towards something and putting that into a savings account, that's the action that I want you to take. I want you to save more aggressively and intentionally. Also take the opportunity to start reducing your expenses across the board. With this inflation-reflation trend that we're seeing, there is an ever-increasing need to reduce your expenses just to maintain your expenses from last year. Some of these numbers are as much as 20, 25, 30% increases over last year. And in some areas where there's even more inflation trends, we're seeing numbers higher than that. So if you haven't gotten a 20 or 30% raise or bonus toward this year's income, then you probably can't afford a 20 to 30% increase in expenses, which means you've got to find a 20 to 30% decrease. You're not going to find that all in one place unless you have something completely out of whack. So get creative, start looking at it, find it in groceries, find it in clothing, find it in gas. Get more creative and efficient with when you travel, how you travel, how many times you leave the house to go do errands. Try to get all those errands wrapped up into one trip. Find ways to consolidate your activities and find activities that don't cost you as much. Do things together at home that don't require cost. Play games, watch movies. Speaking of movies, watch movies you already have. Rewatch old movies, right? Don't go to the new blockbuster. I just used a dated term. Don't go to the newest release of a movie, the premiere night, right? Don't go out to the movie theater and spend extra. Now, if you've got a tradition, you do that on occasion and it's part of your regular budget and you've got that money factored in, you know what? Go for it, because that's going to be, one of the rewards that you're giving yourself for the good financial fitness behaviors and actions that you're taking, right? So these are your action steps. This is your call to action. Reduce your expenses, save more, invest more, do less, but with more intention and greater impact, right? We're in recovery. Call this, the recovery after a hard workout. So, now for the next however long, we're in that recovery mode where we're just shoring up the resources and the foundations under everything else. We're getting fueled up. We're getting ready. We're getting prepared. We're doing our homework. We're trying to understand the market the best we can. We're aligning our expectations with our financial planners to make sure our money is going into the areas that we intend for it to go and it's performing the way that we expect. We're researching what we're going to buy, when we're going to buy it, what's coming that's going to be available, what might be replacing the item that we were going to be buying, but might be a newer opportunity when the time comes to purchase. So staying informed, staying educated in all those different areas. Spend the time now. It costs you nothing to do your homework, right? If you've already got an internet account with a provider, then you have that cost covered. You can do research 24/7 and not spend another dime toward that purchase until it's time to make the purchase. During that time, you can save that money. That money can be invested in work for you, and there's lots of different ways to do that. You can go to high yield savings accounts, you can go to brokerage funds, you can put that money in a pillowcase. I don't care, but don't spend it until it's time to spend it. Spend it wisely. Hold on to it while you can. Now, if there's a need, medical needs, health needs, right? If there's a true need, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying and choose not to cover that need. This is what our emergency fund is for. This is why I want you to hold on to that money now. What I don't want you to do is go out and start building a house and buy a new car and then have a medical emergency. Because now you're going to spend every last cent you have and you're going to be starting over or worse, right? So please take care of yourself, be smart, spend money where you need to spend money, but save as much as you can. That's the call to action.